With the question for Clear Maths, SQE National 5 Maths 2025 last minute calculator paper courtesy of Chris Smith. He does lots of things for maths over Scotland, and if you check the links in the description, you can see what he does. National 5 Maths last minute live stream exam prep video is going to be on Tuesday, 30th of May, 8 p.m. It's a live stream, and it's the night before the exam for members only at £4.99. So if you feel like you need some last minute help going through exam technique, common mistakes, common questions, everything you would need for that last minute, get on it. Clever Maths is sponsored by Lecky, the educational publisher for Scotland. Today we're going to look at practice workbooks for National 5 and Higher Maths. These are just £5.59 when you use the discount code CleverMaths at leckyscotland.co.uk, and these are excellent because they have lots of questions topic by topic by topic. So as you're working through the year, you can revise and practice any topic you want and make sure you are comfortable with that topic. But also when it gets towards exam season, a practice exam paper right at the end to make sure you're ready for your exams. Just £5.59 when you use the discount code CleverMaths. The links are in the description and down below. SQE National 5 Maths, last minute, Paper 2, Question 1. There are 3,100,000 road vehicles in Scotland. It increases by 5% each year for the next 3 years. How many will there be? So, 3,100,000 times 1.05, because I've went up by 5%, to the power of 3, because it's 3 years. So I get my calculator to work that out. 100, 1, 2, 3, 1.05 cubed. Write down my answer, 3588637.5, and then round it to 3 significant figures with a number. So that's 3, 5, and it goes up to 9. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. I don't need the 0.5, so 3,590,000, and we're done there. SQE National 5 Maths 2025 Paper 2 last minute, Question 2. Write x squared plus 10x plus 2 in the form x plus a squared plus b. So this is completing the square. So you half the middle term, that's plus 5. I've still got plus 2, but then I need to take away the 5 squared. 5 5s is 25. Use a calculator anytime you want. You get x plus 5 all squared. And then 2 take away 25 is minus 23. And we're done there. SQE National 5 Maths 2025 Paper 2 Question 3 for last minute. There are 6 forks and 7 knives in the Maths Department staff room. They weigh 32 grams in total. And there's 11 forks and 10 knives in the English department that weigh 53. Simultaneous equations to find the weight of 3 forks and 5 knives. Okay, interesting. Not the weight of 1 fork and 1 knife usually, but 3 and 5, but that's fine. We'll get to that at the end. So let's go for F being the weight of a fork. And what else have we got? The weight of a knife. Okay, then the weight of a knife. So first simultaneous equation, 6f plus 7k equals 32. Second equation, 11 forks plus 10 knives, 53. So we need to solve them so we can scale up. So I usually get rid of the letter. The second one, that's an f here. So I'm going to times by 10 and times by 7 to get 70 in that position. So we've got 60f plus 70k, 320. And then we've got 77f, 7 tens of 70k equals 7 times 53. Well, 7 50s is 350, 7 3s is 21, so that's 371. Let's call that equation 1 and equation 2. So the signs are the same, so I'm going to take away, but I don't want to do top, take away bottom, because the bottom is bigger than the top. So I'm going to do 2, take away 1. So 77 minus 60 is 17. F, k's disappear, and 371 minus 20 is 51. So to get f, I'm just doing 51 over 17, which is 3. Now I've got f, I can work out my k by subbing into any of the equations. So I'm just going to sub into this one, equation 1. Well, not even equation 1, the first equation I wrote. 6f plus 7k is 32. So I do 6 times 3 plus 7k equals 32. 18, 7k equals 32. So taking away the 18 to get 14, and that means that k is equal to 2. So we could write the weight of a fork is 3 grams, and the weight of a knife is 2 grams. And usually you'd be finished at that point, but the actual question goes further to say, what's the total weight of 3 forks and 5 knives? So I want 3 forks plus 5 knives. That's 3 times 3 plus 5 times 2, 9 plus 10, 19 grams. And then we're done there. SQA National 5 Maths 2025 paper 2 last minute. Question 4. The radius, it's got a diagram here, and it just says the radius is 1125. Doesn't give us units, that's fine. Let's just assume it is centimetres. Find the height of the tunnel. Okay. If we're finding a line inside a circle and it's a length, usually it's going to be Pythagoras. So let's see if we can make some Pythagoras up here. Well, first of all, I already know this bit up here, I've just dotted it in, is the radius, which is 1125. So the missing bit is this bit. So I need that line is what I need to work out. I can go along there and then make a right angle triangle. Put the right angle in or you might lose a mark. So what am I trying to work out? Well, this missing side. What do I know? Well, that here to here is a radius, so that's 1125. And then up to the right angle, it's half of 1350. So I can just do 1350 divided by 2 to get 675. And therefore, x is equal to, well, the square root of 1125 squared minus 675 squared. Take away, because you're finding one of the shorter sides of a triangle. You've already got the long side because it's opposite the right angle. I'll just do that in one go, shall I? Square root, bracket. You can do it in 2 steps if you prefer. 1125 squared minus 675 squared, square rooted, is 900. So you get 900 as your answer. So that means that my height is 900 plus the 1125 I've already got. Again, use a calculator. 2025, which happens to be this year. And again, if it was units, you would put units in. I've not got any units here, so I'll just leave it as 2025, but usually centimetres or whatever it is. SQA National 5 Maths 2025 Paper 2 Question 5 for this last minute paper. A company shares 3.5 times 10 to the 5 of its profits equally among 7,000 investors. How much does each get? So it's 3.5 times 10 to the 5 is the amount of money for 7,000 people. So let me just write that down. And I want to go down to one person. So I divide by 70,000. So I'm doing a divide sum. Not 70,000, of course, 7,000. So 3.5 exponential 5, that's how my calculator does it, using the bit times 10 button, all divided by 7,000 is 50. So the answer is £50. And we're done there. SQA National 5 Maths 2025 Paper 2 Question 6 on the last minute paper. We've got a diagram with some triangles and it says find AC to 1 decimal place. So let's just highlight AC, that is in here. And then find the area of a triangle ABC. Okay, so what do we know? For this triangle on the left, we've got this angle and this angle, so we can work out this missing angle down here in case we need it. Don't know if I'm going to need it, but I always like to work out my angles just in case. So 180 minus 93 minus 17 is 70 degrees there. And then I have to find A to C. Now, I've already got one side in an opposite angle. I have to find another side with an opposite angle. So that's a sine rule. Now, the other way to remember that is if I've got one side and another side and I'm finding the third side, it's a cosine rule. But if I've only got one side to start with, it's usually the sine rule. So A over sine A equals B over sine B equals C over sine C. And what have I got? I've got this goes with this. So 4 over sine 17 equals, I'll just put an x on there, x over opposite of that is 93, sine 93. Rearrange it so you can do 4 times sine 93 equals x times sine 17, and therefore x is 4 sine 93 divided by sine 17. Definitely need a calculator for that. So on the top we've got 4 times sine 93 and then divided by sine 17, 13.662, or about 13.7 I think would be reasonable. Always like your unrounded answer first, and we're done there. Part B, find the area of triangle ABC. Now let me draw out triangle ABC. Sometimes it's best to draw a new diagram for yourself in case it all gets all messy. So we've already worked out A to C, which is 13.7. We've got angle 62 down here, and then we've got 4.5 here. And we have to work out the area of this triangle. Well, the start of the exam paper says the area is equal to a half AB sine C. Notice I haven't even bothered to put any of the letters on, because it doesn't actually matter. The letters might not even match, which we don't. What you need to remember is the two sides you're timesing together make up the angle, which is in between. So I've got that. So it's just a half times 13.7 times 4.5 times the sine of the angle in between, which is 62. Again, calculator job on there. A half, you can just type 0.5 for ease, times 13.7 times 4.5 times sine 62, and you get 27.216. And it asks us to one decimal place, so that's just 27.2 centimetres squared, because the units were centimetres. And we're done there. 8th grade National 5 Maths 2025 paper 2 question 7 for this last minute paper. Solve 4x squared minus 3x minus 2, it says plus 3x actually equals 0. Answers to two decimal places. Now if it says a quadratic and it asks you for your answers to decimal places, you're definitely using the quadratic formula. X equals minus b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So a is 4, b is 3, c is minus 10, so we sub all that in to get a mark. Minus 3. 3 squared minus 4 times minus 10 all over 2a, 2 times 4. Next thing I usually do here is work out the bit under the square root sign. We call that the discriminant. So I just go 3 squared minus, and I usually open a bracket after the minus, 4 times 4 times, don't forget the minus on the 10. And I get 169. Minus 3 plus or minus root 169 over 8. If you get a minus answer, go back and check you've done something wrong. We separate that out into two answers, minus 3 plus root 169 over 8, or minus 3 minus root 169 over 8, and solve them separately. So calculator again, minus 3 plus root 169, where I just press equals, divided by 8, 1.25, which I'll round in a minute, minus 3 minus root 169, press equals, divided by 8, minus 2, and then checking, give you answers to two decimal places. Well, it's already two decimal places, so that's it. Except you'd maybe say 1.25 or minus 2.00 to just be on the safe side. But they are exact answers. SQA National 5 Maths 2025 Paper 2, last minute, question 8. 5-a-side Team Real Math did record each player's goal scoring record 30827. Mean and standard deviation, and then there's a statement question for part B. There's two ways to do standard deviation, and I always do it this way. So if you do it the other way, I do apologise, but there's two formulas at the start of the exam paper, and I always use the sum of x minus x bar squared over n minus 1. To use that, you draw yourself a table, like x, and you go 30827, and you immediately work out what the total of that is. So in this case, that's 20, and therefore the mean, which is called x bar, which is the mean, is 20 divided by the number of numbers you've got, which is 5. So my mean is 4. Answered that question. In the middle, a takeaway, x minus x bar, and then x minus x bar squared on the end. Take away 4 from each of the numbers, you get minus 1, minus 4, 4, minus 2, and 3. Now, very careful, you have to square these. Let me show you something. Do not do this. I've got to do minus 1 squared. If I just type minus 1 and press squared, it tells me the answer is minus 1 because calculators are quite dumb. And what the calculator is doing there is it's doing bin maths and thinking you want to square the 1 first. If you are going to put a minus number into a calculator that you want squared, you need to make sure there's a bracket around the whole thing before you square it to get the 1 out, or ignore the minus. Just a little tip there. But 1 squared is 1, 4 fours is 16, 4 fours is 16, 2 twos is 4, 3 threes is 9, and then I add all them up. So I've got 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, I think that's 46. So now we can work out our standard deviation. That's the square root of 46 over, well, we had 5 numbers to start with, so 1 less is 4. Square root, bracket, 46 divided by 4 is 3.391, which maybe 1 decimal place, or 2 if you prefer. I'm going to write 1, 3.4. Always like to run around the answer first in any case. Comparing the means, you always start off with on average. So let's have a look at the means. Before training, the average number of goals was 4, because the mean was 4, and after training it was 5.2. On average, the number of goals scored after training increased. Part B, standard deviation now. Standard deviation is about how consistent or spread out the results are. I always use consistency nowadays. So after training, the standard deviation was 1.4 and before it was 3.1. So after training, the number of goals scored were more consistent. A smaller number on the standard deviation says you're more consistent. And we're done there. SQA National 5 Maths 2025 Paper 2, last minute. Solve 5 sin x plus 4 equals 3 between 0 and 360. A trig equation. So we rearrange it. So I'll start with 5 sin x. But add 4 means I take away 4. So 3 minus 4 is minus 1. And then, that's an x. And then divide by the 5. So minus a fifth. So I can do the inverse sign now of, and this is where you need to be careful for sticky point. Don't do the inverse sign of minus a fifth, you'll never get the next answer most of the time. Always do it as a positive. Shift sine 1 over 5 is 11.5 degrees. And now we use usually a cast diagram. And this is where you check this original thing here, that was minus. If it was positive, I'd pick A and S because it's sine. But it's negative, so I pick the other two, T and C. So 11.5 is not one of my answers, just to help me. So that means that X is equal to, for T it's 180 plus the angle, and for C it's 360 minus the angle. And just a reminder, for S is 180 minus as well. So I just get my calculator. 180 plus 11.5 is 191.5 degrees. 360 minus 11.5 is 384.5 degrees. 348, sorry, 0.5 degrees. And we're done there. This cone and hemisphere have the same volume. Both have a radius of 15. Find the height of the cone. There's probably a couple of ways you could do this. But I think the easiest thing to do is check my formula sheet for the volumes of both of these. The volume of a cone is equal to 1/3 pi r squared h. And the volume of a hemisphere, well, it tells you a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. So a hemisphere is half of that, a half times 4/3 pi r cubed, or divide by 2 at the end. So there's lots of ways you can go with this. You could work out the volume of the hemisphere and then work backwards, or you could treat this algebraically. It's up to you. I will do it both ways for you. Let me do it algebraically. So it says they're equal. So 1/3 pi r squared h equals, well, 4/6 pi r cubed, because I've just done a half times 4/3. Now I need to find h. So that means that h is equal to 2/3 pi r cubed, all divided by 1/3 pi r squared. Certain things cancel here. The pi's cancel. R cubed would become r, and r squared would just disappear. 2/3 divided by 1/3. You could do it all in a calculator here, by the way, so you don't have to do all this. It's just to show you. But how many thirds are in 2/3? There's 2 of them. So that's just 2r. So there you are. H is 2r. And r is 15. So h is 30 centimetres. However, I've got a feeling that most of you won't do it that way. Starting again from here, where we know the volume of the hemisphere and the volume of the cone formulas, let's work out the volume of a hemisphere. The volume of a hemisphere, I'll write h sphere, is equal to 1/2 times 4/3 times pi, and the radius is 15 cubed. So we just get a calculator to work that out. A half is 0.5 times 4 divided by 3 times pi times 15 cubed. That's 7068.58 centimetres cubed. And since the volume is the same, we can then say that 1/3 pi r squared h, which is the volume of the cone, equals 7068.58. Making h the subject, that means that h is equal to 7068.58. 3's on the bottom, so times 3, and on the top, pi r squared divided by pi times r squared, which is 15 squared. And we'll get the same answer, hopefully, or close enough, because of rounding. Brackets, pi times 15 squared, 29.999, which rounds to 30 centimetres as well. And we're done there. SQA National 5 Maths 2025 Paper 2 last minute. We have got a circle and a diagram, 140 degrees outside, which is a tangent. Find the values of A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, let me draw this out because I kind of just want to annotate the diagram here. So there's my circle. We've got a tangent on the bottom of that circle. Good enough. And then we've got a triangle, and it's coming out of here. And then we're splitting it at the circumference, like so. And then we've got 140 here. And that's all we know. So we'll just start, shall we? I'll start with that 140 is and find A. 180 minus 140 is 40 degrees. So A is 40. Tangent meets a radius at right angles, so I know there's a right angle there. It's a bit tricky here, but if you draw an imaginary line going up there, and since that side is 90, I can say that that side here is 50. And because that's 50, I've now got effectively a Z angle from here because they're parallel to each other. So that's 50, which means that's 50. And that's how you get your B. Well, that's one way to get your B. And now it's pretty easy. That's a radius and that's a radius. So they're the same size. 180 minus 50 is 130. Divided by 2 gives you 65 in here and here. That was C and D. So then we'll go after the 65, we've got a right angle on this side. So 65, 75, 85 makes 90. So that's 25 here. So ABC and D was 65. And E is 25. And then that means F I can work out because it adds up to 180. So I've got 65 already, 75 makes 115 for F, and we're done there. SQE National 5 Maths 2025 Paper 2, last minute, question 12, simplify this. So I've got 5 times 3 in the top is 15, and then the powers get added, 2 plus 4 is 6, over 6, P10. Now you can simplify the number parts by dividing by 3, 3 5s is 15, 3 2s is 6, and you can simplify the powers by taking away 6 minus 10 is minus 4. Now it doesn't ask you to leave it as a positive power, but I will. So that gives me 5, and I can move the P down to get P4, 5 over 2 P4, and we're done there. SQE National 5 Maths 2025 Paper 2, last minute, question 13. The labels on these bottles are mathematically similar and have areas of 37 and 335. Find the volume of a larger bottle if the small one is 75. SQE National 5 Maths 2025 Paper 2, question 13. SQE National 5 Maths Paper 2, last minute, question 13. The labels of these mathematically similar bottles have areas of 37 and 333. Find the volume of a larger bottle if the smaller volume is 75. So we can use scale factors here, but we're starting with the area scale factor. So we're trying to find the big one. So the area scale factor is the big area over the small area. So I can take my area scale factor and work backwards to my linear scale factor. So it's the square root of that. No need to use a calculator. You're going to use a calculator anyway, but if it works out as a nice number, you might as well do it. That actually works out as 9. That actually works out as 3, because that divides together to give 9. So our volume scale factor is 3, and then we cube it, which is 27. So a larger volume is 27 times our 75. And you can use a calculator to work that out. 2025. And you get milliliters. And we're done there. SQE National 5 Maths 2025 last minute paper 2, question 14. Sketch y equals x squared plus 2x minus 15. Showing now y-intercept, roots and turning point. Right, let's work this one out. So if we're going to sketch something, let's start off with the turning point, because that's the easiest one actually. You complete the square is one way to do it. If you can't complete the square, you can find the middle of the roots, but I'm going to complete the square because the second number is an even number. So x plus 1 squared, and I've got minus 15, and then I do 1 squared, which is minus 1. So that's x plus 1 all squared minus 16. So my turning point is, change the sign in the first one, leave the other one alone, done. It wants the roots. Roots are when you make it equal to 0 and solve it, and it crosses the x-axis. X squared plus 2x minus 15 equals 0. Either the quadratic formula, or if it's factorizable, you can do that. Well, we've got x and x. 5 3s is 15, plus 5 minus 3 is 2. So I get x equals 3 as the first root, and x equals minus 5. And again, if you had got that, and then you wanted to find the turning point, what you could do is find the middle of minus 3 and 5, which is minus 1, because you add them and divide by 2, and then sub minus 1 into the original equation, and you would get back to minus 16. So that's another way to get a turning point. Y-intercept. The y-intercept is when the other letter, x, equals 0. So we've got 0 squared plus 2 times 0 minus 15, which is minus 15, or the point 0 minus 15. So you now draw a nice neat sketch. Draw it nice and long for us. Y and x. So my roots are 3 and minus 5, so let me put 3 here and minus 5 there, and it is just a sketch. It has a turning point at minus 1, minus 16. So in the middle of there, I'm just going to say that that's minus 1, minus 16. And then on the y-intercept is minus 15, so that'll be just above that, minus 15. Showing all of that on the diagram, it's a nice, neat curve between all those things. And we're done there. This is Mr. Clem from Clem Maths. Today we did the SQE National 5 Maths 2025 last minute paper, courtesy of Chris Smith. Hopefully you found that useful. Remember, last minute live stream, night before the exam for members only £4.99. Get on it if you want that last minute help. Take care, stay safe, and goodbye.